Over the year of 2025, I have been plagued with so much Looksmaxing content. And I don't know why, because look at me. I'm a 10. But a lot of the content was stemming from one guy in particular. One guy who claims to be the king of Looksmaxing, who has truly ascended, who truly mogs everybody else. And not only that, but he'll make sure that you know it and that you will never compare to him because he's just better than you. From your jaw to your eye shape to your overall facial structure, this man will stop at nothing to let you know that he is the superior being. But he will also stop at nothing to tell you what you can do to even have a slightest chance to compete with him by doing whatever means necessary. Does this sound insane to you? That's because it is, but it has gathered a huge amount of following for this particular creator. Specifically, people who are trying to improve their overall looks, who are trying to increase their chances at the dating pool nowadays. They're desperate to try to maximize their looks, their aura in any way, shape, or form. Some see this creator as a hero, a light in this dark, bleak world of feeling insecure about your looks, while others see him as a calamity on the internet. Who is this guy that I'm talking about? He is none other than Clavicular.
What do you rate me on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm rating 3 out of 10. What's my rate, Clavicular? I don't really give a shit about politics, but man, you fuck with me and you don't have papers, I'm calling ice on your ass like this. It's because I ran over a guy with my car.
What I want to try to do in today's video is to explore this phenomenon of how this creator just blew up so fast over the course of last year. I am really curious what it is about Clavicular that has gathered this following and who he is as a person. And is he worth all the hype, or is it just dumb? Is it all just people blowing him up for no reason? Are his methods insane? Well, as you're going to see as we explore into this video, you're going to find out that it's really dumb. Clavicular, real name Braden Peters, is a 20-year-old streamer who exploded online in 2025. He really blew up on platforms like Kick and TikTok, where he regularly talks about appearance, confidence, extreme self-optimization. He seemed to start off as your typical like self-help, self-improvement kind of guy, but over the course of last year, his content quickly escalated into weird methods of improving yourself, giving weird advice, and even very controversial and strange behaviors from this guy. A big part of his content is showing his methods and strategies on how to improve himself, and you'll find out very quickly that it's very dangerous and self-harming, overall not good for your health. To list only a few are adding insoles to add inches to height.
Everyone has to take their shoes off, 100%.
Yeah, so.
Damn, height soles? Should I wear height soles?
Because being a short king is a lie. Let's be real. If you don't have the height, you don't have the aura, and you can't get a girl. It's obvious. Not for me though. I'm like 6'5", so I don't have that problem, you know. Next, we have shoulder adhesives, putting them on to increase your overall frame. You know, don't go to the gym and improve your frame, but, you know, put shoulder adhesives on because that's not going to look weird at all. And people are definitely not going to find out about it, right? Bone smashing, whatever that is. Using anabolic steroids, undergoing various different surgeries ranging from Botox to limb lengthening and even double jaw surgery. Whatever that is, I don't know. To even taking hard drugs.
And most models, so like instead of doing cocaine to get lean, I actually do crystal meth.
But pretty much everything you're told not to do, Clavicular goes the complete opposite direction, claiming that it's gonna improve and that he is doing the most optimal thing for his looks and his health. The insoles and the shoulder adhesives I can kind of get behind. You know, some people, you know, obviously people aren't genetically gifted with being tall or having like wide shoulders. It sucks. It does suck. Again, I don't think that's gonna overshadow having like a really good personality, a likable personality that people are gonna be drawn to. But what really got my attention was the idea of bone smashing. What is that exactly? I had no idea that this was a thing for the longest time. Is essentially the idea you could get like any sort of blunt object, like a controller. There's a lot of videos of people using like a hammer. Why? But essentially what you do is that you hit your cheeks and your jaw in order to cause microfractures so that your bones will grow back even more stronger and defined. It's based off of something called Wolff's Law, which essentially is like the same thing where you put like constant pressure on your bones. These microfractures are going to happen, and then they're going to adapt to be able to hold the weight of the load. The gross misinterpretation with this data that Clavicular does to make that extra leap, we're talking about consistent weight bearing on your bones that cause these microfractures, not random blunt force trauma to the face. And also with Wolff's Law, what it observed is that your bones aren't going to grow bigger and more defined from the consistent weight bearing. They just grow more stronger. It's not like going to grow an extra appendage because I'm applying pressure right here. That's the degree of the claim that Clavicular is making here. My cheekbones aren't going to be growing more and become more defined because I'm hitting myself in the face with a hammer. You can't punch yourself into a better jawline. That's just not how anatomy works. The real strange part about this, because of all of the blunt force trauma to his face, in order to cover up the swelling and the bruises, Clavicular gives a lot of makeup tutorials. Listen, I'm not gonna make any claims about guys wearing makeup being, feminine or masculine, whatever. You do you. This in particular is where he got a lot of criticism from a lot of creators. I know he did a podcast with Bradley Martin, and Clavicular's response whenever he receives any sort of criticism is that you're just blue pilled and you're just not maximizing and you're not gonna mog. You just can't ascend because you're not red pilled enough. The next thing that kind of caught my attention, even like shocked me, was that he uses anabolic steroids. Clavicular does not give off that kind of physique. Honestly, if we're gonna talk about bad genetics and stuff, that is pretty bad, and it's worse because you could have achieved that physique if you just stayed at the gym for maybe 1 to 3 years, and you would be able to hold on to that more. But instead, you displayed and encouraged a very dangerous habit, because now you have people who are going to ask, what kind of dose should I take? What should I be taking? And Clavicular has told people verbatim what his protocol of steroid usage is. And no matter what, whenever you use steroids, it's always going to be playing Russian roulette with your body, because, for example, I were to use steroids, my body isn't going to respond in the same way as how your body responds to steroids. It's always going to be different. Chances of you dying become drastically increased. Making yourself look more masculine is not worth shortening your lifespan by who knows how many years. It's just very dumb and irresponsible. And the last thing, obviously, drugs are bad. Drugs are bad. But he claims that using Crystal Blank is that he is lean maxing, or just like trying to maintain a lean body composition. Having a healthy diet, exercising, taking care of yourself. Nah, just take drugs, dude. That's the optimal way to do it. So on top of that and the steroids, it's just a great combination, right? It's just awesome. It's not dangerous at all. In addition to him growing from talking about his methods, what he does to make himself look better, he would start to have his viewers and other fellow streamers come onto his platform through like a video call or something. And he would, pick apart their looks and he would give them a certain rating.
What could you do to enhance your looks?
Yeah.
Oof. Brother, I'm gonna say this as gently as I can.
What?
Maybe pick up a new hobby besides Looksmaxing.
And this grew really, really fast, especially because he would do this with a lot of women as well. And this gathered a lot of attention from a bunch of different platforms. In particular, the Fresh and Fit podcast. And the clip that really blew up from this podcast was they asked Clavicular to rate one of the women guests that were on the podcast, and he pretty much just kind of like tears into her.
Her mid-face is way too long. She's got the jowls coming in, horrible nasolabial folds, horrible total facial width to height ratio, just really bad age indicators, but obviously at 30, that's not something really that's going to surprise me. Maxilla is super recessed. That's why your under eyes are coming in like hell. Really recessed chin. All the facial convexities are wrong. Her radix is...
Which, when you look at her in the clip, she's not ugly at all, in my opinion. And the whole time, the hosts of the Fresh and Fit podcast are just kind of like cackling and laughing. They're like, oh my gosh, she's calling her ugly. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's not like they know what he's talking about. And all the stuff that Clavicular is saying about this woman's looks, it's just like, to me, it doesn't make sense. And nobody knows what he's talking about. But yet these hosts are laughing in the background the whole time. And they're just like, it's just for the show. It's just for the clips. They're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know what he's talking about. They're gonna go ahead and laugh in anyways because, a couple women broke their hearts. Boo-hoo, women suck. You know the story. And this is the thing that I never truly grasped or understood about Clavicular's content, because you're basing your whole platform on something really shallow and subjective, right? The whole idea with looks is that it's subjective. Being attractive to somebody is entirely subjective. I'm gonna have my own preferences, just like somebody else is gonna have their own preferences. What color eyes are most attractive to you? What color hair is more attractive to you? Do you like long hair, short hair? The list goes on. So it doesn't make sense to give an objective rating system that some guy who doom scrolls and posts on toxic forums suddenly has like the final say on. It doesn't make sense, and it's very inconsistent, and I think it's just really dumb. So as Clav's audience grew, so did a lot of scrutiny. There are a lot more eyes paying close attention to Clav, and I think where most people would feel a lot of pressure, I think Clav let it beat his ego a lot, and it intensified a lot of his behaviors that he probably would say behind closed doors. All of a sudden, those doors were wide open. All of a sudden, he started acting in very bad and controversial behavior. What am I talking about, you may ask? Well, there were a lot of clips circulating online of Clav using the N-word.
I'm peeking this. Chat, I'm joining phase. I'm phase now.
And a lot of homophobic slurs.
Oh my god, go up past left. On God, accident. On God, it was an accident. On God.
Get this little out of my face.
And whether you think it's just for like shock value or just for views, it's still out there. And you're defining your brand as this handsome guy who can say whatever he wants because he just doesn't care. But I guess in Clav's mind, racists kind of mog, dude. Like, racists believe that they're more attractive and better than other people groups. So, it's kind of weird how closely they align. So, hey, I think it makes sense for Clav to say these things because it's not far off, you know what I mean? And over the course of Clav's career so far, there have been quite a bit of big moments in his career that, if anything, they're more controversial than viral. Around late December 2025, a clip spread widely showing Clavicular allegedly running over a person with this Tesla Cybertruck on stream.
Start driving with this guy. Drive.
Oh my god!
Is he dead? Hopefully.
First of all, of course he would drive the douchiest car possible. In the clip, you could see the stream sniper was just, getting in the way of his car. He was on the hood of the car, just acting like an idiot, just doing it for the clips. He straight up just runs him over. And the results may shock you. Early January 2026, it was reported that no criminal charges would be filed against Clavicular, with officials determining there was no criminal element and the incident was handled at the scene. What really kind of bothered me about this was that after Clav ran the guy over in the clip, you could clearly hear Clav ask, "Is he dead?"
Is he dead?
That he immediately follows that with, "Hopefully." Guy, to me, that sounds like criminal intent. And then shortly after this, in February, Clav was arrested. He was arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona for allegedly entering a nightclub underage using a fake ID, accompanied by a camera person and a bodyguard. And police reportedly found prescription-only pills on him. Prescription-only pills. This brought a lot of attention from media outlets. On February 11th, 2026, the New York Times reporter Joseph Bernstein shared on X that the Maricopa County attorney had dropped the felony charges against the 20-year-old kick streamer. Reports said he was facing 2 felony counts, including forgery and possession of forged instruments, along with a misdemeanor for entering an establishment as a minor with false identification. But according to Bernstein, a public information officer said there was no reasonable likelihood of conviction, and that is why the charges were dropped. Clavicular quickly reacted online. He wrote, "You just got a mob." At this point, I think Clavicular is just invincible. You know, he truly is mogging everybody else. And, you know, with all the popularity he's been getting, he's also been getting a lot of criticism and a lot of hate. Wait. Clavicular is getting hate on the internet? This guy who's racist and using homophobic slurs, and he's calling other people ugly? Why would anyone want to hate on Clavicular? He's our hero. But yeah, he has been getting a lot of hate, and it actually led to, in my opinion, one of the most funny memes that came out of his whole career. During one of Clavicular's live streams, we were introduced to a new character. A new character is introduced. This character goes by the name of the ASU frat leader. They were stood side by side, and the ASU frat leader's shoulders appeared to be noticeably wider, and the internet labeled it frame mogging. You know, clips went viral, edits went crazy, memes were blowing up. Pretty much of the idea that, like, the world stood still. Everybody stop what you're doing. Clavicular got frame mogged.
Oh my god! Dude, a plane just hit the World Trade Center! Oh my god! Clav, get away from him! That's the ASU front leader! No! Clav just got brain mugged!
Oh my gosh, a travesty for all the Looksmaxers, all the Clav fans, all the Clav glazers. I think a lot of people love this clip because it humbles Clav a lot, and it shows how stupid his methods are and his advices and his ideas are, and everyone's just praying for his downfall. Now I want to take a second and just take a step back to, like, zoom out, really look at what we're seeing here. This does say a lot about the type of person Clavicular is, mainly that he's severely insecure. However, I think it says even more about the sort of people who have gathered around him and really supported and encouraged him to keep going in his endeavors. And, you know, because of this, Clavicular just takes it and produces more content, and the cycle repeats itself. It's a vicious and toxic cycle that's just gonna keep on going and going. It eventually and ultimately implodes on itself, and it's just gonna turn into something very, very bad. Ultimately, I think this is a good example, if not the example, of the saying of making the wrong person famous. Someone who is deeply insecure and has taken rejection terribly bases their platform on something so shallow and so fickle, and using it to put other people down and to hold yourself to, like, a higher status. It's just really cringe. It's really, really cringe. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all have things that we are insecure about, that we worry about, and that we always think about in the back of our minds if somebody else notices, when in reality, they probably don't. And we should all be treating ourselves with the same amount of dignity and respect for each other, regardless of what we look like. Look, wanting to feel better about yourself, that's normal. Taking care of your body, doing a skincare routine, improving your hygiene, your diet, these are all things you should be doing to improve yourself. However, there is a fine line where self-improvement starts to become self-obsession and vanity. And crossing that fine line is where you get into the weird world of where Clavicular is at. There is a part of me that does sympathize with Clavicular because I was definitely in a similar boat. I was constantly going on dates, and it all ended up the same way. Being ghosted, it's not you, it's me, or they would, you know, just be talking to somebody else at the same time, and when the choice was made, they just didn't end up choosing me. And the big question that everyone has when they go through rejection like this is, what is wrong with me? Why doesn't this person find me attractive and choose me? And I feel like if I didn't have the right people around me to help me realize what my self-worth is and that I should love myself before trying to love somebody else. And if I didn't have that support around me to help me realize that, I probably would have found myself in a very similar position and mindset that Clavicular is in. But I don't want this to just be a cautionary tale of this content creator. I also want this to be a word of hope from somebody who was in that darkness and made it out onto the other side. And I want to say this: there is nothing wrong with you. Everybody has flaws and everybody has things that they worry about when it comes to their looks. You will find somebody who will love you and hopefully will make you a better person by loving you. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't go smashing your face in for a better jawline, and I'll see you in the next one. Catch you guys later.